What's going on, Calisthenics Athletes? Today we're going to be going over programming for calisthenics, specific strength training for the sport. So basically, I do a sport called street workout. If you guys don't know what that is, or you never heard of it before, street workout is a sport that is heavily influenced by gymnastics. Essentially, what they do is they put you and another competitor in front of a bunch of gymnastic apparatuses, and in front of those apparatuses like high bar, rings, floor, P bars, things like that. And essentially, you have about a minute, sometimes a minute and a half, depending upon the competition, to perform as many gymnastic elements as possible within that minute or minute and a half. So it's basically freestyle. You can go from doing high bar, doing 360s, dynamics, giants, doing some sort of dynamic movement that you might see in gymnastics, but with a little more swagger, a little more freestyle, a little more rhythm, a little bit more flow. And then you can jump down from the high bar and immediately go into P bars and hit a planche, planche press to handstand, planche push-ups, and different variations of planche, lower down into like a front lever, a touch front lever, and like do all these crazy, basically gymnastic elements, but freestyle. You do them however you want to do them, how well you execute them, and how many of these things that you do within your allotted time. That's what gives you the points. So whoever racks up the most amount of points and is able to perform what they want to perform best in their performance in their round in that allotted time, that's who wins. So that's basically how it's determined. It's a very, very, very highly competitive, very, very intense sport. So, and I'm happy to do it because I'm insane. So essentially, we're gonna start over here, and we'll go over to the other tab here in a second. So, within this sport, there's kind of like two categories. There's maybe three categories. Maybe. I always see athletes that are like me, where we sort of specialize in one particular type of elements. So in this specific sport, we have dynamics and statics, right? And dynamics would refer to you doing giants and flips and spins on the high bar and stuff. Now, I don't really train a lot of that. And the reason I don't really train a lot of that was, one, I don't find enjoyment from it. Two, you can be very skinny and weak and still do a lot of those things. And doesn't necessarily contribute to a lot of muscle growth, really. Um, like you need to have some basic stuff down, like, I don't know, 10, 15 pull-ups and like some push-ups and stuff. And like you're good to go to, start training freestyle. And that's what that is, freestyle. You're good to start training dynamics. Whereas with statics, you can still be skinny and hit some planche and front lever and stuff. But once you start getting into more advanced stuff, you kind of need to put on a little more muscle mass for certain things, like a Maltese on rings, right? You might need to reinforce your biceps and your delts a little bit more, your back, your lats. For sat, straight arm touch, you might need to reinforce your lats and rear delts. You know what I mean? Since your triceps, and so you might need to put on a little more muscle mass in order to perform some of those static elements, as opposed to dynamics, where it's just like I'm just gonna do a bunch of giants and flips and stuff, and it looks cool. I'm not knocking it. It looks cool. It's just for me, I prefer the statics. It requires more strength. It requires you to have more control of your body in space, more proprioception a little bit, but depends, right? So that's controversial as well. So anyway, that's just why I prefer statics. That, and I also have nowhere to train dynamics. I have nowhere to train it. So yeah. So basically, I specialize in statics, and I always kind of see two different athletes. I see some guys that are like really good at dynamics, but their statics is like non-existent. I saw that at my last competition. I lost to a guy who had all dynamics and no statics. And that's mostly because in the US, in the United States, the dynamics is more popular than the statics. But if you go to Spain or you go to different countries, it's the opposite. Statics is more popular than dynamics. So it's a fairly new sport and it's growing and changing forever. And hopefully we see a change in that. Anyway, I'm ranting. So let's get on with the video. Basically, I train 4 days a week. And as you can see here, this is my program. This is everything laid out, not including attempts or anything like that. I don't know what it is. For me, I've tried attempts a lot in my, I've been doing statics since 2022. A little bit of 2021, I would say maybe. So, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 years now, maybe 4.5, but more like 4 years. And so I've only been training statics that long, and I've sort of seen how different stuff works for me. For me, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my genetics. Maybe it's my limb length, my height, whatever. I'm 5'7", about 140 pounds. For me, doing just band assisted stuff works. Um, I never really got very far just attempting stuff, and anytime I included attempts, I got weaker. So, and I also got more injured or I got hurt. Right now, my infraspinatus on my left shoulder blade is like, it's kind of giving me a burning sensation whenever I do certain movements. I don't know what that's about, but yeah. So anyway, it's fun, right? So I don't really do a lot of attempts, and if I do attempts, it's more like something that's within my means. So, like this day one, let's get into day one here. I'm very confident holding straddle planche, right? I can bust out a straddle planche right now, no problem. What now? I would like to warm up first, but I mean that's probably the smart thing to do. But that's something I can do. I can just bust out a straddle planche, probably do a push up, probably do a press, a negative. Yeah. Now, I may start with like one set, of a straddle planche hold or a hold into a push up, and kind of just that'll be like one set. That'll be like my quote unquote attempt for the day because it's something that's really more within my means. I can hold full without assistance, but if I really want to grow the amount of seconds that I can hold full for, it'd be wiser to use a buffer instead of just throwing my legs up in the air and hoping for the best. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. For me, keep in mind, this is for me, right? And the thing about this sport, and statics especially, a lot of different people learn statics very differently. Like, Simon Imhauser is a good example of someone like who I kind of like. I train a lot like him. He just uses bands a lot, and it works for him. And a lot of people hate bands, and a lot of people love bands. Elias Page loves bands. It just depends. Some people are like, no, you only have to do attempts, only do attempts, this, and that. And some people are like, nah, I just used band assistance and I got the skill. And that's me. I never did an advanced tuck. I never did any of that. I just went straight to doing band assisted straddle. And I didn't get straddle. I got a negative straddle, clean. And I held that crap for like 5 seconds. Only doing band assisted, and like, I never did a tuck or advanced tuck ever, and I got the skill. So same with front lever and front lever pulls. I never did like a front lever pull attempt. I never did front lever attempts. I literally just would hold it with light band assistance, and it worked for me. So like, don't listen to everything I say and run with it. Take what I'm saying and take it with a grain of salt, because it may or may not. Attempts may be awesome for you. They just weren't for me, So that's, yeah. Anyway, so here we are. Planche. So I may start with like a quote unquote attempt of a straddle planche hold into a push up. Maybe a front lever hold into a press, and yeah, that'll be it. Or I might do like a half leg or a single leg touch front lever hold to start, and lower down, touch front lever negative, hold with the one leg. I might, do something like that. I separate a lot of this into what is called heavy and volume. So let's highlight this here. So real quick, just to give you an example. Oops. So what is in red is heavy. What is in blue is light. So in red, right, 5 sets. In light, 5 sets. But notice the whole time range is different, along with the amount of assistance, and the progression might be a little different depending on what we're talking about. So day one, we're going to go a little heavy on the planche, right? We're going to go a little heavy. And what I mean by heavy is I'm going to hold the full planche with only 9 kilos of assistance. So what that might look like is me putting a red band around my waist and holding it for only 5 to 8 seconds. And then letting that myself progress with all 5 sets. And there you go. Very simple, stupid simple. A monkey could do it. So yeah, and then on this day, on day 2, I might do 15 kilos, so a black band, and put that around my waist and hold full, but with a higher hold time range. So instead of 5 to 8, this is 8 to 15. And so the minimum amount of seconds I would like to hold it for is 8, but then the maximum would be 15. Hopefully that makes sense. The touch front lever here, this is heavy, right? Why did it do that? I don't like that. You can't really read that. Okay. Which one did I do? Is that one new? Yeah, okay. That one's heavy. No, sorry. This one is light. Cool deal. And this one is heavy. So I separate it because if I try to go heavy on my touch front lever as the same day I try to go heavy on my planche, that's too much rest as well, like in between sets. So my workout gets longer. Number one. And number two, my planche sets might bleed into my touch front lever sets, so then making me more fatigued overall for that day, and then I have to rest longer for the next training day. So I just like to disperse it like that. So I do half lay on this day because that's just kind of like where I'm at and how comfortable I feel holding touch front lever for about 8 seconds. Versus on this day, it's if I go for full, it's looking a lot cleaner with only 9 kilos of assistance. It's looking a lot cleaner. And I'm pretty happy about the progress there. But I also think that's what's contributing a little bit to my infraspinatus pain. So I work as a bodywork therapist and recovery specialist, and I work for a chiropractor. So I think I'm gonna have them do some needles in me and some dry needling, acupuncture, have them do some popping, have them do some different modalities and cupping and stuff like that to try to see if that alleviates anything. Anyway. Moving on. Getting good with a chiropractor or a PT or someone like a massage therapist who knows what they're talking about. Yeah, that's what I recommend. So anyway, and then stuff like this, I always end each session. You'll see I end each session with some sort of straight arm dynamic. This is important to talk about because you basically want to find a way to, okay, take your skill, right, planche. Okay, now train it by holding it for a time, then train it by doing like a bent arm version of it. So like if it's planche, I'll planche push up. If it's front lever pull up. If it's a planche again, you do archer eventually if you're like that strong. Now, and you should also train it with straight arms, so a straight arm dynamic, either with a press or a negative. And so a straight arm dynamic, basically, yeah, it's like a press or a pull. So a front lever would be like holding the front lever and then pressing up into an inverted hang. A planche would be going from the planche, pressing into a handstand and lowering back down. And then the front lever, like I said, you press into inverted hang and back down. And doing that for reps. I like doing that because it just changes it up. It breaks up the monotony of like just training just like the two elements, and like it adds variety for my training, so it makes it more fun for me. If I just do the only like holds and bent arm work, kind of gets kind of like boring. So I like to add in that to kind of keep it spicy, if that makes sense. Spicy. So let's do. I don't like that. Yeah, we could do that. That works. And so anything that is a straight arm dynamic will be highlighted as such, like that, as long as I can read it. And so basically, the progression stays static because it's really not something to be pushed for progression immediately. It's really there to train technique. It's really there to train and reinforce neurological adaptation for the skill. So I really want to get better at doing that. Like I want to get better at my planche press, and knowing what that feels like, especially in competition. So there you go. The planche, heavy and light, and then it changes over here where this is a bent arm dynamic. So PLPU stands for planche push-up, and then FLPU, it's not a curse word, it's saying front lever pull-up. So front lever pull-up and planche push-up. As you see, I start each day with something heavy, right? And then move on to something that's more voluminous. And I superset these last two exercises. I superset them, but this first exercise I don't superset. I just, because it's heavy, I leave it alone. I just focus and pour in a lot of my effort and energy really into that main exercise of the day. And then, yeah, like I said, move on to something that's a bit lighter. Pretty much it. That's kind of like the I guess the blueprint, or I guess you could call it, of this for me. But I'm very strategic in the way that I train statics. A lot of people aren't, and it works. Some stuff works for them. For me, I just found that I like collecting data. I like analytics. I like knowing information. I like knowing like where this progression is going and the direction. And yeah, so essentially that's what we're going to do. This is a copy of the same program, but we're including some weighted basics, if that is something that you would be interested in. So if you're going to include weighted basics, this is how I would do it. So just do them at the end of each day. But so like here's like some weighted pull-ups and handstand push-ups. Probably do it against the wall or not if you're that strong. 4 sets, 5 to 8. Pretty much using a dynamic delta progression. Or what I like to do is, let's just say you pick like a set amount of reps and sets, so like 4 sets of 5. But basically you would stick with, take your 8 rep max, but only do 5 reps, and then each week add about 5 pounds. Before you start to creep up close to that 8 rep max, take a deload and repeat. So you're slowly adding weight each week. It's a very slow, methodical progression. But the reason I would do it that way is because it's slow and it's not going to leave you sore and banged up. And because if you're sore and beat up and then you come into your next session to do statics, you're not going to be able to perform in the way that you would want. So you really need to do it in a way where it's not really going to leave you too sore. Pretty much it. Yeah, that's why I like ladders and I like body weight stuff. I'll do like neutral grip pull-ups and like body weight handstand push-ups, but I'll do like a quick ladder. I'll do like 15, 12, 10, 8, 5. So you're doing 15 reps, 12 reps, 10 reps, 8 reps, 5 reps, and then calling it a day. Like you just do that, and then calling it a day. And it's if you keep repeating that, obviously you're going to get more sore because you're just packing an unnecessary volume on the muscle. But I like this because it gives you something to progress toward, and you can keep progressing your weighted pull-up and stuff. This day you have a wide grip pull-up and a dip. This day is a weighted push-up and a weighted row. You can even do like pseudo planche push-ups and like mimicking front lever rows, but like with your feet, elevated or on a bench. That's kind of what I'll do. And then this day you can just do some arm stuff like a bicep curl and tricep extension, but like body weight or with dumbbells or something or barbell, whatever, if you want. Yeah, pretty much it. And so you're just kind of distributing all the stress out, well, to where it won't really leave you too banged up. That's kind of what I like to do. I'll flip flop back and forth between like body weight ladder stuff and circuits, and then like this, so that way I have variety. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna spend some time maybe eating at maintenance calories, because that's important too in the sport. You don't want to be like obviously super fat and like unhealthy and then like trying to hit a planche. A lot of the guys who do this sport are super shredded or like lean at least, and so I'm not saying you have to be super shredded in order to do this, but you have to be in somewhat good shape, I would say. So almost every static athlete is like at least in somewhat decent shape. So like, you know what I mean? Watch what you eat, track your calories, track your stuff, just make sure you're good. And then yeah. So anyway, why did I talk about this again? Oh yeah. So then maybe I want to like focus more on like maintenance calories for a little bit, maybe a slight surplus. And so that would be very beneficial to have a slight surplus and do some weighted stuff. If I wanted to do anything weighted. Um, I don't really mind weighted cali because I take enjoyment from doing weighted cali. Like, not like one rep max. I'm not talking about like street lifting or like powerlifting. I'm talking about like, maybe like 40 pounds, 45 pounds, and like doing 4 sets of 8 on weighted pull-ups, and then, you know what I mean? Just kind of like getting a nice little back pump, just kind of like feeling it out. And then like doing some shoulder press or like handstand push-ups or something. I just like kind of like the pump that gives. Feels good, feels nice, and yeah, so nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I've been kind of doing this for a little bit, and this is kind of like what I found work. I used to do 3 days a week, but I was like finding that I was beating my body up just a little too much. So I like that I do more days, but I spread the stress out better for all the static work. Um, so yeah, this is basically how I do it, man. And then as far as like progressing, you just want to do a little bit more than what you did last time. If you all 5 sets for only 5 seconds, okay, well try to get at least one set for maybe 6 seconds or 7 seconds or 8. And then if it's here, if you did all 5 sets of 2, okay, well maybe like see how well you're executing, record your sets, and then if each set looks like shit, well then maybe like taper it back a bit, and then just kind of like be like, what can I improve on my technique for the straddle planche push up? Maybe are my hands like right where my hips are? Am I pushing like closer to my ribs, or am I pushing closer to like where my hips kind of are? Because that's what you want. You want to be pushing where like your hips are. And then how's your breathing? How's your explosivity? Are you exploding up, or are you just kind of like half-assing? Are you kind of slow? Watch the rep quality go up, and before you make any sort of adding of additional reps or even seconds and stuff like that. So make sure your form is good. Get that up first, and then, which is really what the volume is really for, to reinforce that, to allow you to get more whole time in, more exposure to that exercise to get stronger. So yeah, and then obviously the straight arm dynamic is to add variety. So yeah, hope this has been informative. Hope this makes sense. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments below.